Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, and I'm joined by David Francisco and Alexys Moreno. This is Red Spotlight, the show that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more for yet another year in 2024. For those of you who may not be aware of, this coming September would mark 10 years since Lira first created this podcast, a whole 10 years, if you can imagine that. Now, keep in mind, of course, that I don't know if we're going to treat it as our actual 10th anniversary, because I feel like we all consider 2016 or maybe 2015 or 2016 to be the more accurate years for when we actually did this. And even then, it wasn't until I would say 2016 when it became more regular that we've been doing it. So even don't think that's us being in denial of delaying our own 10th anniversary, but maybe that's what it is. Because we don't actually want to acknowledge this as a whole 10 years, because that's just kind of crazy. And it is crazy. But just, we've been friends for at least 10 years now, or almost 10 years now. We've been talking about movies for at least 8 to 10 years, and that's kind of crazy. And that's all this podcast is. It's just nothing but rants and, delusional conversations about movies and how obsessed we are about them. And then that entails with, not just the individual films themselves, but then also for, what's happening in the news with movies, movie stars, directors, and of course, awards. That's our show. And that's what we try to do here on Red Spotlight. I'm just saying this for those of you who may be watching it for the first time. I don't know who would pick the 469th episode. Of course, no one's going to go back to episode 1. Yeah. I don't even know what episode.
I don't.
There's no point in going back to that point.
I don't even know. What was my episode? 13?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That is... Oh.
Not a bad omen at all. That happens sometimes. Movies just fall on me. I don't know what that means. I should probably look into that. But as I try to collect myself, how have you guys been? Alexis, you haven't been on this show in over a month. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Yeah? Are you taking a nice break?
Yes.
From all your responsibilities of having to leave Tucson every 3 days?
Yes. It's been good. I did want to come on here, but I just haven't had the chance to. But it's been a good break from work and school and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like adult responsibility.
I know, that's so disgusting. This is also why it's important to have friends like us that understand how gross it is to be adulting. And so this is a nice way to get away from that. Kind of like forget about that crap, that nonsense. Tell me about it. I mean, this week I had to do adult things, and I'm like, ugh, on my week off too. I had to go do an oil change. I had to go fucking do a test for school, and I'm like, okay. I hate this so much. Had to go call on the phone because, had to pay for health insurance, and it's just like, that's so fucking dull. I'm sorry. It's like, and here Peter was like criticizing me for like over a month of last year. Apparently I watched movies. Of course I did. What else am I going to do? That's sorry. Anyway, so much. Sorry. So stupid microphone.
Are you okay?
I don't know if I am or not. I'm just trying to there's so many, I'm thinking about so many things and I'm not even sure where to start. But I feel like the appropriate place to start with is obviously movies, right? Go figure. And in this show, we're not going to have any specific mainstream review. Every week on the show, we do try and have like a formal movie review. I don't know if when we do those, we like to have at least 2 people have seen it. So, I guess there is one, but it's not the kind of film where I don't know how much in depth we can get into, but we'll for sure have it. I guess we'll here on Red Spotlight number 469. We'll talk about. I know anyone but you. Isn't that pretty appropriate for the movie that we're talking about and other things, of course? Starring Glenn Powell and is it Sydney Sweeney? Is that how it is? Yeah, that's her name. Okay. That's the one movie that at least two of us have seen, and then there are other things we can get into as far as, and then also award season, anything else, and of course, The Crown. Did I forget we were doing that? Oh yeah, I guess I did. We're talking about The Crown season 6, the final season of The Crown, which is a show that Alexis and I have particularly followed for many years now, since 2016. Which is kind of crazy how that's only 8 years ago. Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's our show here today. I do want to get some things out of the way with first. Because this is the second show we're doing, and the second show we recorded in 1 week. It's kind of hard to keep these in my mind, and I'm not quite sure when this episode that you're seeing right now is going to drop and everything. But last episode, David and I spent like a whole hour talking about obviously some movies, but we also had a whole hour talking about like what we felt things were falling into place with awards season. We had our official Globes predictions, which if by the time that this episode even airs, the Globes will already have happened. So if we were right or wrong by that point, because the Globes are actually happening happening at this point with time travel. They would have already happened on the 7th of January. Do you two plan to watch or have watched the Globes at that point?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be on CBS, or it was on CBS for the first time since they were forced to relocate. I'll talk more about the Globes specifically when we do our review.
Hold on? Can we even watch it, David?
I mean, I don't know. Oh.
So we don't have cable anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you do a free trial to Paramount Plus?
Paramount. Okay, we have Paramount, I think. So.
Yeah, Paramount Plus.
Yeah, that was trying to use it to watch his football, but then he was like, "Oh wait, Hulu's getting it for me. Never mind." So we might still have it.
Well, check in with me.
Yes.
And if you don't have a way to see it, I will do my best to find a way for you to see it, because I know you're the only ones who would bother to see it, and I would like to talk about this show with somebody else. So I'll do whatever I can to find out, because from what I understand, that they are going to be airing on the CBS television network and then also simulcast on Paramount Plus. And I would sincerely hope that means that you can watch the show live as it's happening, not after it already happens, and then you can watch it. So I need to verify what that is and how you can do it. But specifically because at the point of this recording, the Globes haven't happened yet, but we're gonna do a show where we can go over the highs and lows, and also the winners and the losers. But moving beyond just the Globes itself, I wanted to ask you guys specifically, like, of the projects and of the people who you've been hearing talked about for potential awards, are there or any particular categories? Like we've in the weeks past, we've discussed song, score, director, picture. Are there any particular projects, movies, or people that you're rooting for personally to win? Like for me, I've made no secret that I like, in specific categories, I'm rooting for Joe Hisaishi to win for best score. He did the score for Boy and the Heron, and he also did the score for all of Miyazaki's movies. He's never been nominated. It's insane to me. And so, I mean, I know he's not going to win ultimately, but I can pray for a nomination at the Academy Awards. He did get nominated here at the Golden Globes, so that's one that I'm particularly rooting for. The one that's kind of giving me the most heartache is actually, well, there's several. There always are. But one of the ones where I can't decide what I want to happen is animated film. I've never been so like indecisive about like which one I would want to win there. And then of course I'm rooting for Marty to get a win wherever he can.
Has a Studio Ghibli movie ever won?
One.
Oh.
Spirited Away.
Hmm.
And then Miyazaki also does have an honorary Oscar. But But I also would say, I know that I shared the clip with you. Someone on the Gold Derby podcast kind of echoed some feelings as well of a nomination that won't happen because they don't do animated direct. They don't nominate directors of animation into Best Director. But if anybody ever were, would not Hayao Miyazaki be worthy of a nomination for Best Director? Please. Like, it's just crazy to me how every year, this is one of the, look, award season is crazy every year because of many things. But one of the things is every year we have a discussion about what's the best of everything. But there's always a couple of things that are not in the conversation that are just like, but we like all last year, we kept beating that drum. Why is it that overall, like the Batman as a whole was like not at all discussed, but specifically Michael Giacchino's score and Greg Fraser's cinematography, I would think, and many did think, were worthy of not only conversation, but actual wins. Roger Deakins, who is the most known cinematographer in the world, even said himself last year in an interview that the Batman had the best cinematography, but it won't even get nominated because of the industry politics.
Stupid.
Unbelievably stupid. And then, again, similarly to where we are this year, while I grant that I think we're going to end up getting at least 9 to 10 movies where, okay, those nominations make a lot of sense. But it's almost like 2018 in the sense that there's a big elephant in the room. Are we really going to ignore, or I should say, not ignore, because it has not been ignored. It's been recognized in other places. But are we really going to pretend that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is not one of the best of the whole year? Now, yeah, whatever. It's a comic book movie, but it's so much more than a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Like, Spider-Verse is a work of art.
Yeah.
It is one of the most visually dazzling things to ever be put to screen. I think, to me, it is an achievement in filmmaking. It absolutely is. And the idea that that's not realistically being looked at as something that could at least get nominated is crazy talking. You got to think to yourselves, look, we've had really good animated movies in the last couple of years that I think should have been talked about for best, picture, like Del Toro's Pinocchio last year, which did win animated feature, but at first people were talking about it like, oh, maybe it could be the first since Toy Story 3 to get nominated for Best Picture. It wasn't. Okay. If Spider-Verse...
I think that animation has been really strong these last couple of years. I mean, even, okay, we have The Boy and Heron and Spider-Man. Even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was so good.
Nimona was also very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been meaning to see Suzume. I haven't seen it yet, but that's one on my list to see.
Yes.
So it's last year when look, I think Del Toro's Pinocchio should have won, but I think some people would have preferred if Puss in Boots won because that was also a great animated movie as well. So I think animation has been having a really great resurgence lately.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is this: the Spider-Verse can't even get a nomination. You have to realistically wonder if that can't get in as a nomination for Best Picture, what animated movie can?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I'm talking about the Academy specifically because I don't want to pretend like there aren't a whole bunch of critics groups who have ignored it. No, it's been getting in a lot of places, not just with Best Film, but also I've seen nominations for editing, visual effects, sound, animated movie, score. Spider-Verse has made an impact more so than literally any other animated movie. And not for nothing, The Boy and the Heron has also had a couple of its own nods to say there was even this Florida critics group that gave it Best Picture.
Dang.
That's pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, yes, I'm partial to animation. I think that's pretty much out in the open. All of us are, and we've been kind of like, been animation's cheerleader for many, many years now, especially when it comes to award season, because it always just feels like, I mean, and even all last year, what was Del Toro saying whenever he got up to the podium? He got up to the podium and he said that animation is cinema. Were you people listening? Probably were rolling your eyes when he said that. Especially when like a number, I think it was, I don't know if it was at the Globes last year. Yeah, it was the Globes, where they invited a child actor to present animated movie. I wonder why, of all the categories, you would pick a child actor to present. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. But I would also say that there are people who are being recognized this year so far that I think I can get behind. She hasn't been in too many things that I know of. I know that she was in Dolomite Is My Name. I saw her in The Lost City. That was the movie with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. And she also had a small cameo in Rustin that came out last year. But her big role that's really exploded is The Holdovers, and that's Devine Joy Randolph. She played Mary, the grieving mother lunch lady in the movie. And she has been sweeping. She has not lost a single prize for Best Supporting Actress. And that's why David and I were like, well, who else is going to win in this category if nobody else is even winning? So it kind of just seems by default that it's kind of her moment. And I think she's a really good actor, and I want to see her in more things.
Oh, no. The actress from Flowers, she went for main actress.
Lily Gladstone. Yes, she went for lead. So I think Devine wouldn't even be winning right now if it wasn't for Lily moving.
Yeah.
Lily went to lead, and she, to her credit, has been sweeping. And I'm happy about that. And if I had a vote, would I vote for her for Best Actress? Absolutely. I've seen, I think at this point, so I've seen
Who has she been up against?
That's what I'm going to tell you right now. I've seen Lily in Flower Moon. I've seen Emma Stone now in Poor Things. I've seen Carey Mulligan in Maestro. I've seen Fantasia Barrino in The Color Purple. I've seen Greta Lee in Past Lives. And I've seen Sandra Huller in Anatomy of a Fall. That's her main competition. Oh, and Margot Robbie in Barbie. But who knows if she'll even get nominated. It's only 5. That's 7 people I listed. So of all of those performances, I would definitely, for me, I think Lily was the one that stuck with me the most. And I think she's the one that deserves it the most. Mm-hmm. I still, though, think that she would have a far easier time if she had remained in supporting, but whatever. And I say that because I still think there's a threat of Emma Stone. Because Emma Stone is one of the most likable people ever. She's one of the most relatable people ever. I just saw her right now. I was watching a stream of this Palm Springs Awards, and all the people were there, and she was accepting a prize. And it's just, she's so normal. She's so endearing as well. And actress, and she's been in great things. And then she's also won before. And it also helps that many people are saying that Bella, the character that she plays in Poor Things, is actually going to be one of the films that she's most remembered for. So that's why
listen, a big La La Land stan here. I know. I need to see this movie.
It's I'll talk more about Poor Things in a few minutes here, but that's why, like, to me, underestimate Emma Stone at your own peril. That's the thing that I think I come away with. Not that Lily can't beat her. I think she absolutely can, but I don't know. I'm still uncertain about that. But I think either of them, I think, would be deserved winners. Even if Emma ends up taking it away from Lily, it's not as if Emma wouldn't deserve it. Mm-hmm. I think she did an amazing job.
I think honestly, I'm so excited for this year's
acting nominees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything. Yeah. Because I feel like we got like a really good lineup of movies this year.
Honestly, we kind of did.
And like I could only just imagine all the movies that were moved up. till next year. Like, that is crazy.
I know.
If we would have gotten all of them this year.
Mm-hmm. Dune.
That I know. That was a big one. Dune was supposed to come out, and kind of thankful it did.
Movie,
Yeah.
like so many.
Yeah. You know, I think Best Actor is also another one of those where, to me, that's the one that's the most undecided, because any one of three people can win, and the nominees themselves aren't also set in. So the people who are vying for this spot include Jeffrey Wright from American Fiction, Andrew Scott from All of Us Strangers, Barry Keoghan from Saltburn, Lester, well, he's not really in contention, but he should be, Zac Efron for The Iron Claw. I saw The Iron Claw. He is definitely worthy of being included. Leonardo DiCaprio, Flower Moon, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers, Bradley Cooper, Maestro, and Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. I think I've seen all of those except for Andrew Scott. That's the one I haven't seen yet. But all of them would be deserving nominees. I should have also mentioned Colman Domingo for Rustin, which is a biopic role. I love that actor. Not the most interesting movie, but that probably means I'll be nominated. So who knows? I know, right? Listen.
What do you think are the possibilities of them making a bigger like slot this year?
In terms of, like, what do you mean like that?
Like for actor, actress, movies. I just think that there's so many. Like,
okay. Honestly, a lot of people are against them. But I've been a proponent of doing 6. Because even the Golden Globes, it kind of went under the radar, but they expanded from having 5 acting nominees to 6 acting nominees. I think, to me, if you moved it just one more to including 6 people, I think you'd have less of a feeling that people were left out, especially in years like this.
mm-hmm.
So if you ask me what I would recommend, yes, do 6. If you ask other people, they would yell at you and scream at you and tell you you're crazy. That 5 is enough. I don't know. I just think, like, remember, it was only just like 2 years ago where the Academy said, okay, enough of this, maybe 7, 8, or 9. We're for sure going to have 10 movies in Best Picture nominated, which was ridiculous. It should have always been 10 if you're going to expand from 5 to 10. But whatever. I had said that what I predicted for Globes was that Bradley Cooper, because of how thirsty he is. And let's just talk about that right now. And it's kind of unfortunate that he's kind of fallen into this whole situation, because I think that I think he's genuine. I don't think he's somebody that, like, is doing all of this because of the glitz or the glamour or the money or the fame. He genuinely likes movies, and he genuinely wants to be a great filmmaker, and he wants to be recognized for that. And I don't necessarily think that's objectionable. And I do think that as far as an actor, he should have won by now, and he hasn't. The idea that he wasn't nominated for Nightmare Alley was crazy. That was unbelievably crazy. He should have won for that, if I'm being honest. I mean, Will Smith, who? Bradley Cooper should have won that year, and y'all would have been better off for it if he had done that. Let's just be real. Yeah.
That's crazy. I forgot that he wasn't nominated for that.
And you know what's even more embarrassing,
though? The Will Smith year?
Yeah.
Wild.
But you know what was even more embarrassing? I think, look, I kind of feel bad when he says that he felt embarrassed. He said this himself. He felt embarrassed when the Academy did not nominate him for Best Director for A Star Is Born. And I'm like, well, that was your first movie, but you also, I mean, if you are very close.
It's still an Oscar-nominated movie.
He did get nominated for Best Actor for A Star Is Born, but it's like, you got to know that the director's branch is pretty discriminatory, especially towards actors who try to be directors. So you got to have known that at that point. But you know where I do feel most for him was, and I gotta admit, this is one of the times where the Globes kind of like dropped the ball, because I've been saying for years that the Globes pick more interesting winners than the Oscars ultimately. But this, when you go back to the year that A Star Is Born came out, it feels even dirtier because both he and his movie A Star Is Born ended up losing to the same movie. Do you remember what that movie was?
What year was it?
2018.
Is it Bohemian Rhapsody? Stop it right now. Oh God. That's...
And you know what's sad is it wasn't just a Globes thing, because Rami Malek ended up winning over him for Best Actor that year.
Ish. No.
That, honestly, to date, was the single worst award season ever. Honestly, it was insane how that movie, and I think Peter was correct at the time. If the Oscars were even 2 weeks later, it might have won Best Picture. I think it was that close to winning Best Picture. Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's like, if you're Bradley
shouldn't have been that close to begin with. What do you mean? Oh God.
So that particularly stung. And so he came back for Maestro, and I gotta say, I think Maestro is not particularly engaging. I think when you see Maestro, you see the talents of someone who will be a great filmmaker, and you see great filmmaking in the movie. There are sequences, there are shots, there are, scenes just set up that are easily among the most beautifully directed stuff I think you would have ever seen. But as a whole, and you can understand on some level what he was trying to do with this movie, I don't think it works. And I think a lot of people are the reaction that when it dropped on Netflix a few weeks ago has kind of been that. And if I'm not mistaken, and this was, I thought this was a joke. As I was mentioning, a number of critics groups were announcing all their choices, right? Well, the Oklahoma Film Critics Circle actually had a category. I'm not even kidding you. This is not a joke. They had a category for most disappointing film, and Maestro was that movie.
Oh God.
And he's kind of being made fun of right now because of how much he wants the Oscar. Like, I think I don't think it's performative. I think it's actually him because there was a clip that came out on the directors roundtable, and he's kind of tearing up to Michael Mann. I think that's real, but it just makes people hate him because, like, how could you be that? How could you be that thirsty over an Oscar? He is.
He's an actor. What do you mean? Like, that's his job.
Yeah. So
it's so funny to me that when people are like, "Oh, the Oscars," like blah blah blah, but it's like, this is like people's actual jobs. Yes, it's gutsy. It's like, they're all rich, whatever.
And awards are ultimately meaningless, right? Like, to us, and it's and they're political, and they're but to them, that's their craft. Yeah.
Yes, it's their craft. This is like what most of them like strive for. It's like a regular job. Like, I don't know, you want to become like the boss, like this is what that is. It's just so crazy.
At the same time that we can acknowledge, and I think on some level maybe they forget this, but like rarely do these awards get handed out for merit. We got to be real about that. They get handed out for like whose turn it is or how popular you are, really, at the end of the day. And Bradley Cooper, though, is popular, and he is thought of as overlooked. So that gives him an advantage. But this latest development...
Why would they have that award? That's so mean.
I know. But this latest development doesn't necessarily bode that well for him, So you got to look at, okay, well, who else might they go with? I personally feel that the one that it shouldn't even be a conversation to me. I think Cillian Murphy kind of gave the performance of his career as J. Robert Oppenheimer. Like, I mean, that was a magnetic performance, and he carried that movie.
There's a lot of close seconds, but like, it's Barbenheimer year. I'm sorry. Like...
So, but here's the thing, though. Even if Oppenheimer ends up winning like RDJ and Nolan and Best Picture, Best Actor is the least likely that one will win because Cillian Murphy isn't the type that Bradley Cooper is. Ironically enough, Bradley Cooper is shaking hands. He's kissing babies. He's on the campaign trail. Cillian Murphy does not like talking about himself, and that's not going to do you any favors in a race like this. Okay, well, then who else do we look for? And I think another person who I think is a middle ground between the two, who also gave a great performance and who also hasn't been awarded, Paul Giamatti. Paul Giamatti. And his movie is beloved. The Holdovers, no one doesn't like The Holdovers. Everybody likes The Holdovers. And it's already going to win, I think, for one of the acting races. It might win two, you know. That also isn't unprecedented. So I'm thinking, what is this race coming down to?
You don't think it would be Leo if it's not Cillian?
I think, to me, everybody feels that this was not Leo's best performance. And I want to just say this. I hate this mentality so much that any latest work by someone who we've seen so much work from has to immediately be compared against their best. Like whenever a new Spielberg movie comes out, well, it wasn't his best, so we can dismiss it. Or whenever a new Scorsese movie comes out, well, it wasn't his best, so we can dismiss it. Fuck you and fuck off. I don't like that mentality. Am I saying Leo's performance in Flower Moon was his best? I don't think so. But I kind of think it might be my favorite in a way.
Yeah.
You know? So
no, yeah, I mean, his performance was really good. Like,
I love when he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like,
no, for sure.
Go ahead,
but,
David.
like, this one, he was good for the role. Like, you kind of got annoyed of him for being such, like, I guess, weak person and all that. And so even at the very end, when he finally stands up to his grand uncle or whatever,
his uncle.
His uncle.
The grand uncle was boiling the heroin.
When he finally stands up to his uncle and all that, he's standing up to him, but he still sounds so weak about it. He's just kind of like, no, I'm not gonna do it. It's like, oh my god, are you serious? Yeah, I gotta go. I'm sorry.
I just think he's so good.
Yeah, but then also, like, compared to the other ones, I think Paul Giamatti for sure gives a far better. At least for his character, I felt more emotional for his character. I was very happy for his character at the very end, and not just because he's a good guy or anything, unlike Leo's character or anything like that. It's just, I just got a more. I feel like I got more from his performance than I did with Leo's.
For who? Paul?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Paul. Yeah, he's great. I gotta say, I watched The Holdovers again yesterday, and it holds up. And it kind of got even better in my estimation. Dominic Sessa in that movie. That was his first movie ever.
Oh my god.
He's incredible.
For sure.
He's incredible. Like I got so pissed off when, and you know what? I haven't seen May December. I haven't seen Charles Melton. But the idea that he got all these nominations, but where is Dominic Sessa in The Holdovers? Because this was his first ever movie. The same way that last year, Gabriel Labelle had his first ever movie. In what movie? The Fabelmans. Which got a lot of nominations, but he kind of wasn't around because he was considered too young, I guess. But you know who else also I think gave their best performance last year? One of my favorite, Colin Farrell. Banshees. So every year there are those for sure. So, but from one group to the next. So I already outlined, I think the three leaders in Best Actor are Paul, Cillian, and Bradley. Then supporting actor, where it kind of almost feels like the show is over, that it's RDJ's to lose, because RDJ is RDJ. Like, I think he's already, I didn't even see this. Did I hear this right? That he's already won Yeah, he's already won like 2 or 3 Golden Globes, so he might even win the next one. Very easily would win. But the contenders for supporting actor are Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Charles Melton, May December, Ryan Gosling, Barbie, Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things, Sterling K. Brown, I think maybe not in American Fiction, and maybe Willem Dafoe in Poor Things, but I highly doubt. I think it's come down to Charles Melton, Mark Ruffalo, RDJ, Robert De Niro, and Ryan Gosling. And that's also a really interesting category because
it is.
I gotta say, I watched Poor Things yesterday. That might be Mark Ruffalo's best ever role.
Listen, I think that I want Robert De Niro to win because I think his was my favorite performance. But I would love if Mark Ruffalo won just to see him on stage, just to see what he does. I love him so much.
You know, Poor Things has so much in it as a movie that you can take away with, but one of the things that you will walk away from that movie feeling is like, not only was that Mark Ruffalo's best performance, but I think in some moments he stole the movie. I think he got the biggest laughs. And if you've seen that trailer, there's a moment where he's like, Bella, and it's just so comedic the way that it comes across. And you see it in the trailer, it's even more hilarious in the movie. People were laughing so hard. He for sure is getting nominated.
Did you guys see that interview, the Variety interview that he did with Robert Downey Jr.?
I did not know. I saw with Emma Stone and Yorgos, and they couldn't stop laughing. That was hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, that one was so funny.
Yes.
Oh my god. No, but the one with Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. You could tell that he like almost didn't take it because he's like this like he was so like self-conscious about like the role itself and like what he had to do and stuff. He's like, what am I
which
doing?
guy?
Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That like he kept telling himself like what the fuck am I doing? People are gonna like laugh at me and not like laugh at like the comedy, like laugh at me.
Oh, no one's doing that. No one is. People are laughing at him because of how great he is. That's the distinction. No, he delivered in ways that I think surprised people. This may be one of his signature performances. I got to tell you.
I love him so much.
From one to the other, from one Marvel bro to the other, RDJ. I'm
not saying that I didn't like him in Oppenheimer. Like I thought he did such a good job, but I guess like I was more mad at Robert De Niro.
You hated Robert De Niro more.
I hated Robert De Niro.
It's kind of hard to hate. What's his name? Admiral Strauss. That's the character that he plays. Louis Strauss. Because he's a hater. You know.
He is.
So he's kind of fun.
He's a petty bitch.
He really is. And the thing is, like, whenever he's on screen, you're like, yay. And you're getting so much out of it, you know? But when Robert De Niro shows up on screen, you're like,
you just want to pop one in the face.
I can't believe some people, because, you know, I watch a lot of awards podcasts, and some people have even said that Robert De Niro could, like, miss out and not even get nominated. They're like, this is his best performance in years.
Yeah.
And you're telling me he could miss for this?
No way. I would honestly riot.
And yet there's somebody else, though. Ryan Gosling, who you can argue there was no one that could have played this better than him.
Yeah.
This honestly,
like, I want him to get nominated, but I would be so mad if he gets nominated and not Margot Robbie. Like, I would be so mad.
Okay. How should I put this?
I know.
Okay, let me go back. Let me go back to actress. I know it's Lily, Sandra, Lily, Sandra, Greta, and the other two would be probably Carey Mulligan and. I'm not saying she can't, but if I gotta tell you, of the two who are likelier to miss between Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, it would be Margot Robbie, but it also would be a very bad look, and people would be burning the place to the ground come nominations morning if Ryan Gosling gets a nomination and Margot Robbie doesn't. And it's for the movie Barbie.
Yes. That literally talks about that.
Yeah. And I think it's overall Barbie. Let's just take this real quick. I, as I mentioned, I've been watching a lot of podcasts. There are people who are like, yeah, it's the year of Barbenheimer, so Barbie's going to be a major awards player. And David and I had this discussion on our last podcast, and we were, looking at like what we thought was going to win. And ultimately, the only thing we had Barbie winning was for box office achievement and maybe screenplay. But like, it's going to get all these nominations, and it has been getting a lot of nominations. But it's hard at this point until it actually starts winning. But it's hard to see it winning Best Picture prizes.
Yeah, and like I don't mind if she doesn't win because there's so many. But like if he ends up winning, which I honestly don't think would happen, but
yeah,
crazy.
Like I don't see Ryan winning. I also don't see De Niro winning. Only because I think he's one of those people that gets taken for granted, so I don't think they'll prioritize him. It's hard to see a viable alternative to RDJ, only because of how popular he is in that movie, how popular that movie is. And I'm sure some Oscar voters will take this as an opportunity in their minds to consider this a knock against Marvel and like, welcome back, RDJ, from the Marvel circus. Now we're going to congratulate you for walking away from that. So there's a lot of, element that plays into it. But what's also interesting are the screenplays, because they're both actually kind of very competitive. Just this week, we actually had some news. The Academy ruled that Barbie was disqualified from competing in Best Adapted. No, I'm not disqualified completely.
Oh,
I should say ineligible. Because here's what happened. The Barbie team decided that they felt that the screenplay that Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig wrote for Barbie, they considered it more original than adapted, which I think all of us can get behind. Yeah, that's an original movie. But the Academy has a lot of really antiquated bullshit rules. And one of the rules is, when it comes to screenplay, any screenplay that is revolving around an idea, an IP, or a character that was previously created for anything else before the fact has to be considered adapted. The same way last year that Glass Onion was placed in adapted. There was Glass Onion was not adapted from anything. It was a sequel, and it was an original idea from Knives Out, but because it was a sequel, it just goes in automatically in adapted. And with Barbie, what happened was they wanted to run an original because they thought they had a better chance at winning original than adapted. Then the Academy ruled, you're not original, we're going to put you in adapted. Which is just one of the many rules they need to change, because that's just stupid. Barbie is the most original movie of the year, probably. And how that movie even works is a marvel. It really is. But to consider it adapted, but it'll be an adapted, and it's going to go up against the screenplays so you have Barbie, Oppenheimer, Flower Moon. Let me pull up the other ones.
I think Flower Moon has a good chance of winning that one.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, is Flower Moon, if Lily wins, is that all Flower Moon wins for? You got to think about like what, because the trick into seeing how things are going to win is to look at the packages, right? Like, okay, it's not just a single win, because look at last year. What movie won 7 Oscars last year? That's incredible. That's a history. That's like history making. But yeah, only one movie won 7 Oscars. Everything Everywhere All at Once. It took 3 of the 4 acting categories.
Yeah.
That's insane. So sweeps can definitely happen. In original, you have movies like I don't know why I'm fucking blanking out. I'm so sorry, guys. Like I should have this already in my head. And yet I'm just like, oh yeah. Oh no, I forgot. So in adapted, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Flower Moon, Poor Things, and then the 5th one, don't even remember. Original, you would have Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives. You might also even have in there now that Barbie moved out of the way, I could definitely, and Peter has been making this argument too. He thinks, based on what he is seeing, a movie that could sneak into the conversation is Saltburn. For a couple of reasons. Has Saltburn been getting nominated everywhere? No, it has not. But it has been getting into certain places, and it did get a Best Picture nomination at the Critics' Choice. Saltburn, as a matter of fact, this on the date of this recording, was listed in at least 11 categories for the British Oscars. So that's the BAFTAs.
Okay.
Here's how I can see it happening. Because there's at least a good 8 movies that for sure will be on Best Picture. It's just figuring out what are the last 2. How is Saltburn that last one? I don't think it's impossible that we can see Saltburn get into supporting actress for Rosamund Pike. People have been talking about her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would also think maybe even a stronger chance would be the screenplay, because Emerald Fennell is a previous winner here. She won this category herself 3 years ago for Promising Young Woman. So I could definitely see her. This is a very clubby organization. You know, they all are. If you've won in the past, it's really hard to not get nominated again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm seeing, or even win again in a lot of cases. So I think like Saltburn is definitely one of those movies that can like benefit from Barbie having been moved to adapted. So there's that situation. And then I don't know. I wanted to. I've been thinking a lot about this, David, since you and I did our podcast a few days ago. Because you and I had a really interesting back and forth about like how we would have preferred, how we prefer the directing and picture prizes to be divvied up. Because I think we're both thinking of like, well, on the one hand we've got Oppenheimer, on the other hand we've got Flower Moon. I know you were saying it's like, well, what you're saying is what a lot of people are thinking is that, well, the most obviously directed achievement of the year was Oppenheimer, so you can give Nolan director since he's never won before, and then Flower Moon picture. That would be an interesting combination, but I feel like Oppenheimer's the movie of the year. Yeah. I feel like that one would be more picture, and then Marty would be more of a director pick, or it very well could be Oppenheimer gets them both.
Mm-hmm.
It very well could be that. And then Flower Moon only gets Lily Gladstone, if that. Who knows? I mean, we got to see how much Emma wins or not in this competition. Or they could give Flower Moon screenplay, and Marty would be one of those people that gets a trophy because he did co-write the movie, so he would technically still be a winner. But here's the thing. I want to say that 9 times out of the last 11 or 12 years, a screenplay winner has won picture. So if you think Oppenheimer's winning picture, I would think it would also win screenplay. Mm-hmm. That's how I'm thinking about it right now.
I think Flower Moon should win director and screenplay, and then Oppenheimer should take picture.
That I would not be opposed to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I feel like, I mean, I'm not saying that Nolan didn't like pour his heart and soul into this, but like I feel like Scorsese was more like, this is my life's work.
He's also 80. How many more chances are you going to get to give him anything? And he is perhaps the greatest living filmmaker ever. Perhaps. And he's only won once.
That's crazy.
That being said,
he does a movie like every other year too.
Who, Nolan? Oh yeah, yes. Look, here's the thing. That's why I'm saying a lot of these old masters we take for granted. I didn't even realize it because I was watching the clip from a year ago. Remember a year ago when the Globes happened, Spielberg won directing. That was one of his only prizes for directing that whole award season. But when he got announced, the announcer said, you know how they say that this is Steven Spielberg's nomination and this is his third win, which is a lot, but out of how many times? He's been nominated 20 times for Best Director. 20? That means he lost 17 times.
Dang.
That's just Spielberg. I mean, Scorsese, actually, I think Scorsese has a record because I think that's why I'm thinking Scorsese has a better chance of winning Globe Best Director because Scorsese has won that award 4 times. And he's won it for movies like Hugo and Gangs of New York, where that was not repeated at the Academy Awards. Nolan has never won, which you could say he's overdue. I gotta say, after Oppenheimer, I like Nolan a little bit more, but I'm still I still have a hard time warming up to him, as a personality, and it's not just because of the COVID thing or the whole Tenet debacle. That's a big knock against him, but I just feel like I'm looking at his movies. I've always respected the craft. I've always respected for what he offers film and the fact that, and the idea that his movies bring an audience and stand for original films. But I'm thinking of all of his movies. I can't say a great many have really resonated with me. The only ones that I think struck with me were Dark Knight and Oppenheimer. And I'm not saying the rest are bad. I'm not saying the rest are less than great. I'm just saying I'm looking at all of his movies. Not many of them have stayed with me as much as Oppenheimer and The Dark Knight have. I mean, you could make the argument that maybe he should have won director for Dark Knight that year. And Dark Knight should have won Best Picture. In fact, most people that year were making that argument.
Yes.
And I remember.
I remember too.
Yeah. That's the whole reason the Academy changed from only nominating 5 movies a year to up to 10 movies a year.
I think that was like the first year where I kind of paid attention to the Oscars because it was a big deal.
Yeah. It's a joke. I don't even remember what won.
I don't either. I need to look this up.
2008. So it would have been, the year was 2008. So the ceremony took place in 2009. Sometimes it just depends on which time you're searching it up for.
This was the first year I paid attention to the Oscars.
Was it? Let's see.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I guess.
But you know what? You know what though? I now that I remember, that was the first year I was paying attention to. Not that deeply, but I knew of it and I knew what was going on.
How old were we? 10, like 13?
13 years old, I want to say.
Yeah, because I remember I was very strongly for Milk.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I'm also looking at Letterboxd for other films that came out in 2008. WALL-E, Iron Man, Mamma Mia.
WALL-E
that was a
won
big
that year.
Ponyo was Ponyo nominated? Ponyo and WALL-E went up head to head then, huh?
Dang.
And Kung Fu, and the first Kung Fu Panda. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah, that one was a big one.
The first Twilight movie.
Us robbed.
Tropic Thunder.
Oh wow.
Right, Cloverfield, Gran Torino, Step Brothers. There was even a movie here. Anyone remember The Boy in the Striped Pajamas?
Oh,
Yes.
I remember watching that movie. That was really sad.
So depressing.
That was the year of Madagascar 2, Escape to Africa. High School Musical 3.
Yes. Robbed.
No, never mind. That's just such a useless conversation. Hellboy 2 also came out that year. Milk came out that year, as you said. That was also the year of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie. Not that it was that great, but just pointing out things that came out that year.
This movie won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Oscars.
Damn. That's a lot.
And Dark Knight won 1.
Was it Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at least it won. You
know what? It was so funny. And
best sound mixing could have at least won.
You know what? I'm sorry. You know what you reminded me of right now? Because obviously that was a posthumous win for Heath Ledger. He was no longer alive at that point. But I remember a few years ago, reading or hearing one of the people who follows the industry talk to some Oscar voters that said that they didn't want to vote for Chadwick Boseman in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom because they said, "I'm sorry, but he's dead. I want to vote for somebody who was alive." And that's how ultimately that Chadwick didn't win that year. That's when the whole Anthony Hopkins happened.
The video of him like thanking everyone. Oh my god.
He wasn't even there, wasn't he?
He wasn't even there. He was asleep during the whole thing. It wasn't until the next morning that he made a video. He's like in a robe or something and be like, he talking about Chadwick real quick, but then it's just be like, oh, I'm glad to have won and all that.
You guys should have been there. I was watching. That was look. In all fairness, that was one of the most boring Oscar ceremonies because it was the COVID year. They were doing it in some train station, and it was just a bunch of boring speeches, and they went on forever. It was really, and it was a COVID year. But I was here watching it in this room with Kyle and Peter. The moment that happened, the shock and hilarity of it, because I don't know if you were watching this, but that was the year, and they did this to themselves. Every year, the Oscars end with Best Picture. Mm-hmm. That was the one year they did Best Picture before Best Actor. Best Actor was saved for the last moment of the night, thinking that Chadwick Boseman would have won. What only made that funnier when Joaquin Phoenix read the name Anthony Hopkins, he wasn't there. And then they just cut to Questlove. Questlove says bye, and then that's it. The show ends. And then the next morning, when Anthony Hopkins wakes up, he has to make that video.
That is so funny. But he probably thought that he wasn't going to win either.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think not many people thought he would win.
No, everyone thought it was just going to go to Chadwick.
That is so funny. Damn.
So, these people do funny things sometimes. Funny and despicable at the same time, gotta tell you. I mean, the whole Bohemian Rhapsody situation was...
That is crazy. That was also the year of Joker, wasn't it?
That was the next year. Where Joker received 11 nominations from the Academy Awards.
Stop it right
and won 2 of them. One for Joaquin Phoenix and one for the composer for the score. You know who else is also nominated in that category for Best Actor? Adam Driver for Marriage Story.
And Oscar winner.
Jonathan Pryce for the Two Popes was also in that category.
Damn.
So was, I think, Leo in Hollywood. And he was very good in Hollywood. I think, to me, that's one of my favorites, too. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, from the last Quentin Tarantino movie. So...
That was a good one, too.
And, yeah, the Best Actor, sometimes they don't go with the best.
I
They
want to
kinda
see
go with the worst.
Ferrari.
Oh yeah. It's in theaters right now.
Because he's actually like promoting it.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been toying with the idea of watching his movie 45. Was it worth it or not really worth a watch?
You haven't seen it?
No, I missed it, and then people were like so negative on the movie.
No, people are stupid.
Wait, you mean
I mean-
65?
know this.
45. Oh no, 65.
65.
Okay.
Yeah, the dinosaur movie.
Yeah. He's so good in it.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I mentioned it, like, it's basic. The movie's like very, very basic, but he is really good in it.
He's really good in it. And the little girl is too, isn't she the one from Wolverine?
She's the one. She's Ahsoka.
Oh shoot, you're right.
Yeah.
They look
Ariana
not
Greenblatt?
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Logan.
The one.
The girl from Logan is
Wolverine
Daphne
isn't
Keane.
that one.
Yeah.
So Ariana Greenblatt, who played young Ahsoka and was also in Barbie, was also in 65.
Yes. She was really good in it too. Like this, I guess I think what David means is like the story is like
Right.
No,
It is what it
yeah.
is.
but they make it worthwhile, I think.
So yeah, I guess like we'll see how all of this goes eventually. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
It's gonna be interesting.
Speaking of some of these movies, I'm sure you guys have already heard a lot about Saltburn, but I have to say that since we initially discussed it, it's gone on Amazon Prime, and it's kind of exploded and taken off a whole new life. People are actually watching it on Amazon Prime, which only just demonstrates how people are just not at all ever willing to go see movies in theaters and just wait for it to be on streaming, which that annoys me. I'm glad the movie is getting some kind of notoriety.
Yeah, I think that they should have waited a little bit longer because it was like starting to get traction and then they released it. So they kind of screwed themselves over there.
I don't know. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation every time I just think about this, but whatever. People are watching it, and I think what I've been seeing is mostly a lot of really positive stuff in reaction to the movie, but I've also seen some negative stuff and some of the usual nonsense that you see that you can just dismiss as people who are not really all that into movies, even though they claim to be. Like there was like, I don't know, some people who were like, they filmed the TikTok of themselves like saying how they did more obscene things to each other than what happened in Saltburn, which, okay, like I don't know what that has to do with the movie. Like the idea is people who are general audience people or normies, if you want to call them, seem to be beholden to this idea of like judging a movie based on like some of the weirdest shit ever. Like if all you're gonna judge the movie is on how much it shocks you, there's more to any movie than just one thing. That being said, I know, Alexis, you're aware of at least one sequence.
Two.
No,
I know what happens.
Okay.
The whole movie.
Okay, so you know what happens. Okay. David, do you know?
No.
Okay, don't. Let's just see if one happens. The two times I saw Saltburn in theaters, the reactions, delicious. Delicious. The squirms that you heard from people were the best. Alexis, are you aware of the scene that happens at the end with the grave?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you know that wasn't scripted? Of course you knew. Okay.
Anything related to Barry Keoghan.
Okay, you know
I'm
then.
aware.
You know. That is incredible to hear how that wasn't scripted, and he just kind of like told Emerald Fennell, the director, I want to try something. And Peter was like, imagine being the crew just there as he's taking off his clothes and then just picturing what would happen next. That
I love him.
There's one thing, and I don't know like the whole context of it or anything, but it was Rosamund Pike. Yeah, she was doing some kind of interview, and she talked about a scene where Barry Keoghan like pulls like the blankets from her bed. She's like in some kind of machine and everything, and so she said that that was improvised too, like him pulling the sheets.
Just think everything. The whole movie was. I think the dancing scene was too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she did say that. Well, I'm not sure if the dance. I think he made the dance, but I think Emerald Fennell had wanted the movie to end with a dance, and she had that song specifically in mind to end the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rosamund Pike, she said that like as soon as he pulled out the blanket, she thought, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna take off my clothes, isn't he?" like she just got super worried because she had no idea what the fuck was gonna happen next. And so I'm sure that's whatever you're seeing, you were talking about with the grave. I'm sure that's what the rest of the crew thought too.
I love him.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's Saltburn. One film also that I think also has its fair share of sequences that I think are going to shock people. As I mentioned over the week, this past week I saw the movie Poor Things. This is a film that we had already talked about that stars Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, and Rami Youssef, and it is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who has also directed films like The Favorite, which starred Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz, and then also The Lobster, which starred Colin Farrell. If you're not aware, this movie, she's like nothing you've ever seen. Brought back to life by an unorthodox scientist, a young woman runs off with a lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudices of her times, she grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation. This is one of the most unique movies I think you guys, well, for sure, of all year, and one of the most unique films I think any person would ever see. It is a weird combination of many different things. It is hilarious. It is graphic, and it also is full of heart. And it also has a pretty powerful message to say. If anything, this film, and I can understand the comparisons, has been compared as like Barbie's weird cousin. Because I think there are some things that this film shares in common with Barbie, which is the whole idea of female empowerment in the times of which that they're, or in the world that they are in. And I think it's able to successfully land that particular message with the anchor that is Bella Baxter, I believe. Yeah, that's the character's name, Bella Baxter, played by Emma Stone here. And I don't want to give too much away because I think not a lot, but some of the enjoyment of the movie is just like, experiencing this person discover who she is. Not like who she was before, but like who she is now. But that's really what the film is. This is a film of it's a journey of self-discovery. There was even one character in the trailer, if you saw it, where one of the characters says, a woman plotting her course to freedom. It takes place, I believe, in the 18th century London. And I just feel like so much of the film is just watching her experience all of what life has to offer. In a way, again, I think a lot of the journey that Bella Baxter goes through in this film can be compared to what Barbie went through in the movie Barbie. Although to I think a far less conventional attitude of it, but all the pleasures of life. This film has more sex than Saltburn. A lot more sex than Saltburn, and you see a lot of parts. So there's that to be sure, in case, which, you know, every person I guess has a different standard for that. The film is rated R, so I think that it's appropriate, you know, on that level. It also just happens to be heartfelt and sweet in a way that really surprised me. There were several moments in the movie where I'm like, okay, and then this is where this takes the conventional approach. This is the part where she kills here, and no. It really surprised me, because I think at the end of the film, you're left with having seen something that was witty, intelligent, smart, hilarious, truly tour de force filmmaking, incredible writing and performances, but then also weirdly wholesome. It truly is, I think, to me, one of the most unique films I've ever seen, and I've not been able to stop thinking about it. It's definitely a worth watch movie to me. And it's like one, like, I think to me, I gotta be, I'll be honest though, like, when I was watching it, you're not really sure how you're gonna feel about it, I think, in the first 30 minutes. Not that it wasn't good, not that it wasn't working, but as I was watching it in real time, I'm like, I like this. I don't know how much I'm gonna like this by the end of it. And then, as this happened, by the end of it, I'm like, wow, I actually really like that. And then as I was going home, the more I thought about it, it's only risen in my estimation. So I think this is going to be a film that would stay with you. But Emma Stone absolutely nails it, you know? As I'm sure it is a surprise for nobody here. Of course she nails it. And it's definitely a movie I think you guys should see. Is it playing near you right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've discussed this. I have not been home.
You should stop this podcast right now and go. I mean, I can be there in 4 hours if you give me, and we can go watch it together. If that's, I don't know. Anyway, that's. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Sir, I haven't even seen Saltburn.
I know, but it's like, don't look. You don't know how long these movies have in theaters. Like, I'll tell you, I didn't know how long The Boy and the Heron was going to play in theaters. I think it ended up 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But I was lucky to see it as many times as I did. You did. You did. Did you end up getting it at the end? Because I know David told me that you guys were like trying to like look up articles, figure it out, like what happened ultimately after having seen it.
Yeah, her and I were butting heads about it. I don't know.
Alexis, did you end up hearing our podcast? Our review of it on Red Spotlight. Did you hear our review or no?
I don't think I did.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you'd like to, you can talk about it if you want. The Boy.
I have to rewatch it.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but I mean, I'm saying, like, I don't know when it comes out, but
yes, it's just like, I just feel like I just felt like it was a very personal movie, like too personal, that it was just kind of like I felt left out of things.
Sure, that's natural.
But like, it wasn't a bad movie, like, at all. Like, I enjoyed myself. It just that's how I felt afterwards. Like, I feel like I'm missing like a big chunk of the story.
I think a lot of people felt that the way that you are feeling. But then again, so did me and Peter. I don't exclude myself from that group. I had to like interact with it more. I had to like think about it and read a whole bunch of articles and then go back and watch it again. I actually have here on my stats from Letterboxd. The movies that I watched the most times last year. So I watched Porco Rosso 3 times. I watched Oppenheimer and Barbie 4 times. I watched The Boy and the Heron 4 times. I watched The Fabelmans 5 times. I watched Flower Moon 6 times.
God.
And I watched Across the Spider-Verse 6 times. And I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 7 times. That's not all in theaters, by the way. I want to be clear about that. I mean, some of those are home watches. So don't think I watched Guardians 3 7 times in theaters.
You would, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, the most I would say that with if I really, really like a movie, I think I tried to go at least 4 or 5 times. But I'm crazy like that. And it didn't used to be that way, mind you. I think this only happened after the pandemic. After the pandemic, I'm like, I don't know if I feel like I have to make up for lost time, but like I'm just like overdoing it with the rewatches. But to me, I've rarely regretted it. Like, you know, like I kind of consider it a treat that I am able to watch, especially in theaters, a lot of these several times over. Like Spider-Verse, when it came out, I watched it 3 times in 2 days. For the first weekend. Because it's Spider-Verse. I mean, it's crazy. I'm crazy, clearly. So yeah. Now, one of the movies that I saw this week and that you happened to see was something that I got to tell you, from some people I saw they were really hating hard on it. And I can't understand, because this is, I think, also in and of itself, a treat that we rarely get to have. Like a standard mainstay studio rom-com is something that we were so used to getting in the 2000s. But what, this is the only one that came out last year in theaters? The only other, that wasn't a rom-com, it was a studio comedy. It was No Hard Feelings, which is also very good, but that wasn't a rom-com. This was a rom-com. This was Anyone But You. This is directed by Will Glut, who, by the way, I did not know, he also was the director of the remake of Annie, the Peter Rabbit movies, Friends with Benefits, that was with Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake, and he also directed Easy A with Emma Stone.
Oh.
So interesting, right? The film stars Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. And I mean, it's a rom-com. I don't know what you think it's going to be, but here, as Letterboxd describes it, after an amazing first date, Bee and Ben's fiery attraction turns ice cold until they find themselves unexpectedly reunited at a destination wedding in Australia. So they do what they do, what any 2 mature adults would do: pretend to be a couple. I was just simply delighted by this movie. You know,
it was so cute.
Actually was.
There was like one moment where I cringed hard.
Which one?
When they were going up in the helicopter.
Oh, that one? Okay.
That made me like, ooh. But everything else I thought was so good. I associate Sydney Sweeney with Euphoria, and I don't like that show. So I was a little like
apprehensive.
But I really liked her in this movie.
I thought she was really good, actually.
Yeah, I did too.
And it seemed like Glenn Powell was also just born to do roles like these.
Yeah, yeah.
He just was so natural at it.
I agree.
Like it's like he actually kind of felt like a real person, almost, in a way, you know, like as real as you can in a movie like this.
Well, because he always plays like not like the bad guy, but just like the
douchebags.
Yeah, and like he kind of was here too, but like not really. But he kind of was. But like
he had a little like a flavor of it, but not the
Uh-huh.
whole. It was like more of an act he was putting on
Mhm.
to it. Like he was more of a softie, really, than he wanted to admit. Um, but no, I mean, for these movies to work, the central relationship has to work. So I think that
Yeah.
both of our stars here are great, and they're great together.
Mhm.
And I actually felt, I guess, what people would say, the sparks between them.
Well,
Um, yes,
I mean, you guys know like the whole thing that happened when the promo started coming out for the movie, no?
I'm not aware of it actually. I've heard, but
Well,
not really.
I mean, it started because they put out a video of Sydney Sweeney kind of like sitting on his lap, and like it just looked weird because it wasn't in the movie. It was just like them two kind of just. I think they were gonna do like an interview. And it looked weird. It looked, you know, like if I was the girlfriend or the boyfriend, I'd be like, okay. And I guess like a few weeks later, um, he no longer had a girlfriend. And I think she still is with her boyfriend, but he is not.
Are you telling me they weren't acting in this movie?
I don't know. Who knows?
That's kind of like the dream, isn't it? Like to work in a rom-com with a person, then it actually ends up happening. I mean, to be clear, it hasn't happened, but things have been happening that have caused some suspicion. It looks like what you're saying,
Yes.
and a lot
um,
of them, people always want to do that. People were
yeah.
speculating with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga
Yeah.
in A Star Is Born, which
It was just
hilariously we
suspicious that
didn't he leave his wife like later on after that movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. It was just suspicious that like the girlfriend left him after that. So, who knows?
Yeah. I also have to say, like, a lot of these movies can also live and die on the supporting characters and then also the locations that we're in. And the
Uh-huh.
idea of this being a destination wedding in Australia, I think did the movie a lot of favors. I like the locations that we were at. They were very much like obviously picturesque, but it definitely enhanced, I think, what these movies have to offer. Like, I think to me, a lot of like one of my favorite movies of this kind happens to be The Holiday. And some of my favorite sequences are when Kate Winslet goes to Cameron Diaz's house and she's like, what the fuck? This is the best place I've ever been in my life. And I want to be there. And that home in Australia by the beach with its own pool. And like, who doesn't want um to live in that? Um yeah. I
I
will say
hope
this.
I
Go ahead. No, go.
just I hope we get more movies like this because I do miss them. I feel like because we haven't gotten them in a long time, you kind of just forgot about them. But now that we have it, it's like no wait,
I
and
have
you
good
kind of start
news.
going back into like the
Yeah.
rest of the movies. Like I love the Drew Barrymore romance comedies. Like
Mm.
The Wedding Singer is like one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Going the Distance with Justin Long. Um, I think it's called Song and Lyrics. I forgot the guy's name, but that one's a really good one too. So I
I
love
mean,
these
The
movies.
Proposal.
But,
You like The Proposal?
no.
How about It's Complicated?
Complicated. Which one's that
Meryl
one?
Streep, Alec Baldwin.
Oh yeah.
Came out the same year. So, I feel like I'm missing one. I'm probably missing a whole bunch of them. But anyway,
Yeah.
I agree with there should be more of these, and there's actually good news on that front. Um, actually, there's a lot of good news in some of the box office because if you've been looking at Wonka, Wonka's doing really good.
Mhm.
Um, not just here, but also overseas, which is like we got a profitable musical for the first time in years. That's
Yeah. I am
amazing.
so curious to see how Mean Girls does next week.
Yeah, We'll see. Unfortunately, Color Purple hasn't been doing as well as Wonka, not nearly. I don't know what happened. People just were not in the mood to watch Color Purple or a musical version of the Color Purple, which is crazy because I've seen it 3 times and I thought it was really good. Like I thought it was a really good musical.
I'm like super curious because I love the Mean Girls musical. I just don't know how it's gonna translate into a movie, especially when the musical is based on a cult classic. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious to see what's gonna happen. I honestly don't think it's gonna do well, because I mean, even though I like the musical and I love the music in it, I just don't think people are gonna vibe with it.
But I wanted to say though, that Anyone But You is doing really well, actually. I saw at the box office, like the best that a movie like this has done in quite some time. So again, when I just think, to me, it's kind of the same thing, but we're seeing more evidence of what we've been talking about last year, which I think last year truly was a year for a lot of changes. You know, a lot of trends are changing where, I mean, for the first time in many years, Disney was not the top at the box office. It was Universal. But more interesting than that, huge blockbusters, huge franchises, huge comic book films crapped out and failed spectacularly, and they all had huge budgets, whereas it was a year of different kinds of success in all other places. You had Oppenheimer, and as we just mentioned, smaller examples of Anyone But You and Wonka, and then even The Boy and the Heron did very well at the box office for itself. I also wanted to say, you weren't here when we got a chance to talk about this, but Hunger Games actually did very, very well for itself when it was predicted to blow up. And notice how all the Rachel Zegler haters kind of shut the fuck up after that. So
Yep.
It's a whole thing of changes, and really curious to see how that continues on into 2024, because we're going to have obviously a lot of movies, maybe even more, considering I'm sure some were delayed due to the strikes. So yeah, but back on Anyone But You, I actually really happen to like the inclusion of Unwritten.
Yeah, I like that they included the song. Just that moment, I was just like, but I thought it was.
But even how it ends, though, everybody is singing the song, and they have a montage at the end, and it's like, damn, I've missed movies like these. It's been such a long time since I've seen something like this. But you know what also should be commended for is, I think one of the things, and maybe, well, one of the things that sets this movie apart, where you can tell it was made in the 2020s and not in the 2000s, was I love the fact that they have a gay couple, like, front and center. I mean, not front, they're not, the movie's not about them, but they're getting married. And like, you can say that, like, people going to see this movie by extension means they attended a gay wedding of some sorts, which is great, because that just means that there's more inclusion.
And it was so like
it wasn't
they didn't make a big
thing.
deal.
No.
Like, yeah, it was just, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah, like, no comment about it whatsoever. No, because there doesn't need to be a comment made about it. But it's just so fun to have. It's so good to have that be normalized, because if this had come out in the 2000s, that would be one of the first things.
It would have made a big deal about it.
Or it wouldn't have been there at all.
True.
And you for sure wouldn't have seen them kiss.
Yeah.
So, and this is a mainstream studio rom-com, not an indie, small indie film. That's the main difference here. Not that, we haven't seen films do this before, but it's a big difference when you have the studios themselves engage in that. But you know what? Good. I want to say that Sony should be commended on this front because they released Anyone But You, but then also No Hard Feelings last year. I don't know if you saw No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence and with Andrew Barth Feldman. If you want to see it, it's on our Vudu Movies Anywhere shared app that we have. But I thought that was, to me, also sweet and funny in its own right. If anything, I think that the comedy was better in No Hard Feelings, I would say. Did you watch No Hard Feelings? No, you got to see it. There's a scene in the trailer. Let's just say Jennifer Lawrence gets punched in the throat. That delivers. That delivers. It's great. She's great.
My dad saw that one, and I didn't realize that he was watching it because I wanted to, like, for all of us to watch it. And the next day, because I heard him, because the living room is like right behind my room, so I heard him laughing so much. And the next day, I'm like, "What were you watching that you were laughing like so much?" And he's like, "Oh, I was watching the Jennifer Lawrence movie. It's really good." And I'm like, "You watched it without me?"
It's one of my favorites of the year, for sure. I watched it in theaters. I had a good time. I rewatched it a few days ago, and I had an even better time with it. It actually did age well. And I didn't know that that movie is by the same director of the film Good Boys from a few years ago with Jacob Tremblay, which also was a very good comedy. So, yeah, I just like, I want more movies like these. You know, we should have more of these. And I feel like, if anything, 2023 should have been a message to the studios that we need people want more variety in the theaters, not just on streaming. And streaming shouldn't be the home for just movies of this kind.
Yeah.
Because honestly, they haven't been very good. And if they have they had any staying power? No. And look how every time you see what's popular on streaming services, it's not the original content. It's the stuff that played in theaters. Go to Netflix right now. It's a whole bunch of WB movies because they're licensing that shit out, obviously. But like, they have theatrical runs, and it just goes to show you, no one should have ever bothered to have challenged Netflix. Everyone would have been better off if they had just allowed Netflix to be themselves. Yeah, you can have Hulu, sure, whatever, but like, we didn't need Disney Plus, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, all this other crap, because all it's done is fracture audiences even more, you know? And it's made it harder for films to break through. And Netflix can be that place for, like, Spider-Verse, the first one, broke through in a big way. Avatar, The Last Airbender, had a second wind back in 2020 because of it. Now we have all these projects that came of it. I mean, they're doing a remake of that Meghan Markle show. Because of Suits, because of how big it's.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
A remake, or they're doing a sequel. I don't know what it was. Because of how big it exploded on Netflix. So it's like, I think you should have just let things be as they were, and you focus on what you did best, which was the box office, which is the only real way you make money.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And then when you made all these services, you also just killed cable. We've had this discussion so many times already this year, but it's just like every time we bring it up, it just reaffirms what we already know to be the truth.
And then
that's good.
For studios, though, like, you know, you mentioned like we want variety and all that. The blockbuster movies, like, yeah, that's gonna, if it's good, it'll make you big money. But like, also make something smaller, like No Hard Feelings and
No way. Anyone But You.
Anyone But You. Yeah, I was confusing the two for a second. But like, still make movies like that. It's not gonna make you all the money in the world and all that. But like, you're gonna get something, and it's gonna come, and you're gonna get more of it in the future once it's gone from theaters, once it's on DVD. Physical media is important.
Yeah,
and it'll gain more popularity once it goes on streaming too, like Netflix.
And you know what else was also pretty interesting? Somebody on Twitter had this idea, but like, this is actually because, you know, Best Buy already pulled out of physical media. They're I saw some employees smash the discs with their bare hands outside the other day. I'm kidding, but that's what it feels like. Why don't movie theaters also sell physical media?
True. Yeah, like, why don't they just make their own, like, original like physical media stuff and then sell it. Yeah,
like I mean,
so I don't know why. Like, never crossed my mind. Just go to stores and all that. But yeah, why don't theaters do that too? That's so weird. I mean, they're already just making their money for the food, but people are just like, I'll just eat before going to the movies, and so they kind of have to like come up with stuff.
Yeah, they really do. But I guess we'll see. How things are gonna move along for this year. Well, I think we're just about at the end. Before we get to the last thing, so we watched the last episodes of The Crown. Did you finish it, David?
Yeah, I finished it.
Okay. So now you're all caught up.
Finally.
I know.
It was years in the making, right?
Literally. He was watching the 4th or 5th season right before this last season came out.
It was 2020. Season 4 came out 2020.
I had to rewatch it. I was so sad. And you know what? I was kind of sad also because I love the first seasons. Like, I did go back and watch those too, but I love the second part. Like, when the new actors come in.
3 and 4.
Because, yes. And because I feel like before we were still in that phase of like, this is awkward, this is weird. Like, I miss the old people, but like, it's fine. Like, they're not bad. But like, now I'm like, 3 and 4 are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know people genuinely feel like 5 and 6 are not great. I still liked it a lot, and I still like those actors a lot. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think the season 6 of The Crown was great television. And
my dad had to stop watching the second half because he was like, "This is too much for me."
I gotta say,
like, it took him a few days to process everything.
No, I mean, how could you not, right? Well, I guess I'll put it this way. I don't know if it's gonna win anything. I know that the Golden Globes nominated it for drama series, Imelda Staunton, Dominic West, and for Elizabeth Debicki, and they're all deserved. But where's Leslie Manville's nominations? Hello? Leslie Manville, who played Princess Margaret in the last 2 seasons. Where's her nominations? Incredible. That, to me, look, The Crown has consistently been some of the best television of the last few years, and I honestly feel like it's going to go down as the top 5 best things Netflix has ever given us. Like, for sure.
And the fact that they finished it.
That's true. Oh my gosh, so many shows. They just go on. It's annoying.
They don't get an ending.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
I guess, look, let's address the elephant in the room, though, first of all. And one of the things that we had an issue with was the idea of this being the final season when there was so much more to go. I feel like my personal suspicion is because it would be too close to Harry and to his wife, Meghan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Meghan Markle. And because Meghan Markle has such close ties with Netflix, as does Prince Harry, I feel like everyone just decided it was the best to not bother with that touchy situation.
Because even... Go ahead.
I mean, I know the show is called The Crown and all, but I mean, this is really more so Queen's, the Queen's show. So I think it's just best to stop it there. At least for me.
To be fair, though, I mean, the Queen did live a whole 20 years later. Like, well, not 20, but close to. The last episode of this show took place 2005 when they're rehearsing her funeral, which I guess we know how that ended. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. It was there. But like that was still a long time before she, eventually passed away.
Dipped.
Literally. So yeah. But I understand also, having seen the season, I understand the view that perhaps this was the point where we could stop. And then even that last episode, I think, gave a lot of closure. I would say that, to me, not that I necessarily feel like it brought down the enjoyment of the show whatsoever, but one thing that I will lightly criticize them, but I understand why they did this, is that by the time we get to season 5, well, I would say the first 4 episodes of season 6 are entirely consumed with the death of Princess Diana. Like, so much so that the queen is barely there. I think that's the longest stretch of time where we feel like we just haven't heard from. I mean, she's there in the background, but she's not really involved in what's going on. And I understand that how they structured it, why that needed to be. But this criticism actually turns into a positive, because I was happy that with the last 6 episodes, we got to have the queen back at the forefront of the show, and kind of see how she can navigate her way from all of the last few seasons of turmoil with the crown. And I think it actually gave Imelda Staunton finally, not that she hadn't been given great material in season 5. She got great material in season 5, but I think that the last few episodes of season 6 kind of like, she brought it home with her performance as Queen Elizabeth. And I'm sad to say that, because I kind of want to see more from her particularly, and obviously just more of this show, obviously. I don't necessarily feel like I'm in love with how they treated the whole situation with William and with Kate, but I thought they were good episodes and I liked them. But I just feel like, to me, it felt rushed, and it felt like something we would see more of in season 7 and season 8, obviously, if the show had been allowed to continue. That's one of the knocks against it. It's like, this feels great for an introduction, but I'm missing more, and the more would come if there were more seasons of the show. So that's kind of like, well,
we should have gotten at least up to their wedding.
Yeah. But I also understand, though, that, and I guess this also deals with like I actually really, really liked the finale, and how it was structured, the idea of them rehearsing for the queen's funeral, which was like an idea that, the idea of the queen dying is just something that's like, been thought of from the very first episode of the series, and to get to the very end and to actually have these characters like talk about, the fact that they're in their 80s and there's not much time left for them to be alive. Although I guess they didn't know how.
And for that to have, like, if that actually did happen where they rehearse it, to that have been so close to like when everybody passed away in her life. Like,
that was the thing that kind of made Elizabeth, or made, I think, Imelda's performance, I think, really memorable to me in this last season, was because it also made it feel, strangely enough, like much more of a fitting final season, that you had these characters that we've had from season 1 just die off one by one. Porchy, the Queen Mother, and then of course Princess Margaret, which is just very devastating. Oh, and then also, Diana died, but that also happened. But I don't think she was as close to Diana as she was to those other people, obviously. One thing I did like in this season, and then something that I think we got enough of, but I also could see a season 7 where they could have explored it even more, was the fondness that the queen and Prince William have for one another. And you also kind of you now I don't want to comment on too much on where the crown is today in 2024, and with King Charles and Prince William and the rift between William and Harry. I don't know the specifics. I don't really know all that much, but I feel like generally people can kind of surmise that after Princess Diana died, and you see it in the show here, that one of the people who strangely, because she's not necessarily the warmest of people with her own children, but somehow she ended up being much kinder to her grandchildren than she was to her own children. You could see a bond form between the two. But there's also a bit of mystery there. I think one of my favorite scenes in this season was when William was with Kate's family, and they're going over I don't know what the ceremony. I think it was the Jubilee. Yeah, it was one of the Jubilees. And the Kate's family are just like, they're trying to pick at William's brain about like, what does she think about this and that? And then his comment about like, to a lot of us, like, she's just kind of an enigma. Like, we don't really know her. And the only ones that did, the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret, are gone.
That's crazy.
Just a really interesting comment there. But there was warmness there to it. Even in the last scene they have with each other. But again, this review ultimately here on Red Spotlight will devolve into just like moments that we like the best. But ultimately, I think all of us can agree that season 6 was a winner. It was great. It was a great final season. You can make the argument if it was perfect or not. But I just felt like it was also a great series finale. And it kind of was like, to me, watching the show in its final moments just kind of like kind of reminded me of like how big this show was for me and everything. And so, yeah. Were there any negatives or criticisms that you guys felt for this season?
No.
For me, I think what you said about William and Harry, and I do wish that we would have gone more with them and William and Kate's relationship. I mean, I know we got like maybe like 2 episodes with a lot of them. But like maybe with Harry, like I wish we would have gotten a little bit more with him. Because I believe he was really close to his grandpa. If I'm not mistaken, because they were both like the jokesters in the family or whatever. So he was, and then he like went into the military, like his grandpa and stuff like that. Or because his grandpa was in the Navy, right? So like I wish we would have gotten moments like that. Like we never really got to see like Harry grieving and like how he dealt with everything. You know what I mean? Like I wish we would have gotten that. But it's fine. But like other than that, and it's not like, it's more so like greediness on my part, like I just want to see more.
Yeah.
Because like everything else I think was like, it was so good.
Yeah, it definitely was. It almost makes you wonder if maybe the first 4 episodes of season 6 should have just been tacked on at the end of season 5, and then start off season 6 with with this and everything. But the
first, like the last episode should have been with Diana dying, and the first episode should have been the last episode from the first half.
Yeah. I gotta say, I think to me, the performance. Oh, it's hard because there's looking in the 6 years of this show. I still would say Josh O'Connor's Emmy-winning performance as Prince Charles.
That's why I love season 3 and 4 because of him. I love him so much.
But also Olivia Colman. I think she might be my favorite though. I love Olivia Colman as the queen. I gotta say though, I really, really liked Dominic West's portrayal as Prince Charles in these last two seasons.
Yeah, he was really good.
Like, you felt like obviously a much more mature Charles, and again, like we say with all of these Crown reviews, not that this is the case in real life. Who the fuck knows? I'm just reviewing this show, this fantasy version of this show. And to me, I appreciated those moments where it felt like the character was actually growing in the right direction. But I know people have, like, a lot of people are like, have been angry for these last few seasons, I guess, being very charitable towards Charles. Well, I also think that they do give it to him a lot when they can. Like, even when what was it, Prince Philip was saying to him, like, like, you're the last person that should be defending her. Like, you cause her the
most pain.
That caused her the most pain. Or William giving it to him after, in that first episode back. Like, all of those things he said to his face had a lot of truth.
Just literally just like having to just stand there and take it. Crazy.
I mean, like that whole conversation of, like, she should never have been anywhere near the Fayettes, and even, like, referring to Camilla as the other one. If anything, though, one of the things I do kind of wish, again, additional episodes or seasons, I really would have liked to have seen, because I know now it looks anyway as like Camilla and her relationship with the royal family is in a much better place than obviously it was back in 2005. Because we only ever see Camilla interacting with Charles up until the very end of the series. So it would have been nice to see her be welcomed into the royal family. And I know a lot of people have very, very, very heated opinions about Camilla and, adultery and all this thing. Look, the thing is, to me, in the context of this as a TV show, I have always felt, I had tremendous sympathy for all of the people involved, obviously, but with Camilla and Charles, there was no reason Diana should have even been allowed to enter the picture in the first place. It was very clear to everybody involved, they loved each other well before Diana came into the picture, and they should have been allowed to marry. And because they themselves realized, oh, I'm it for you. And even with this whole marriage being included into it, I can understand. I have such tremendous sympathy for people who continue to be in love and trying to maneuver around the hand that they've been dealt with. And the sad situation there is that Diana also Charles did love Diana to an extent, but Diana loved him more.
Yeah.
Too.
Like I mentioned earlier, I rewatched this show, and oh my god, I completely forgot about where they announced the engagement, and I forgot what episode is it, but it's at the end of the episode where the queen goes to talk to Charles, like telling him, like, oh, this is like basically her being like, this is gonna be good, like, I know it, and like he just turns to her and he's just bawling. I can't. Like, it just, you hate everybody, but at the same time you're like, no, but like you make excuses for them. It just, all the emotions towards every single character.
They did a great job just balancing out everything, honestly. Like, I really do. Talking about the prince and all that, I did like the moment between him and Diana after the whole divorce, though, and they were just kind of like, hey, let's let it all out now. It's just like, what was the problem here? And they said everything, but I love the moment though where he goes, we were perfect for each other, we just weren't in love. And I was like, fuck, that sucked. So there was just a lot of great moments, and my favorite honestly in the entire show was with Jonathan Pryce. talking to William, and he like tells him like, I know why you're not really mad at your dad. You're really mad at your mom because
that was wild.
Oh my god, just that entire scene was, I cried the entire time. And then I mean, he just tells him like straight up like, you're mad at your mom because you're nothing like her, and then people expect you to be like her, and
you don't know how to navigate it.
You don't know how to navigate it and everything. And so it's just, that's a part of him that hates her for it and all that. And then at the very end though, he's like, go and apologize to your dad and all that. And he's just like looking at both of them hugging, and it's just like the regret that he has in his face of like, he could have done better.
There was regret there, but I gotta say though, I also felt I read it a little bit differently, not entirely, but I think to me the regret came when Charles was talking about to his mom and dad about like the idea that William is not, getting along with him, and then we see Philip dig in to a lot of their old photos, and it's just something nostalgic about seeing that black and white photo of Matt Smith and the younger Charles in the first season. And then it starts to hit him. Look what a terrible father he's been to Charles this entire time. And not that the Queen is off the hook by they've just been terrible parents. Charles got that's why I've always been so sympathetic to him, because no one has been in his corner. And like, everybody has all these constant like insults. Even Anne in that episode was like, you had no friends in school. Okay, geez, like just go for the jugular, why don't you?
You even mentioned too like how the Queen is with William and all that, and she's just like, I want you to have like as normal a life as you can. Did you give that to your son like at all? I was honestly thinking that when you first mentioned the Queen and William's relationship, and I was just like, did she even let her son? Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry.
Did she even let her son like have a normal life at all in any moment? I know for sure, fucking his dad didn't let him fucking all tough on him and shit. But like, it just really got me thinking. Like, man, you never even gave your son a chance at all to be with anyone that he wanted.
Yeah, it's just like their relationship is so interesting in the show, because at least for me, in the whole, like in the entire show, and I think there is an episode about it, I just have always felt like the Queen just felt threatened by Charles the whole time. She half of her loved him, but half of her hated him because of who he was.
She pushed him away. She constantly pushed him away. The only time she didn't was that one episode in season 2 when Philip forced him out of that school into that other place that Philip had gone to as a kid. That was the only time. I think that was the most, I think, considerate she was for Charles up until, I guess, the very end.
And it's like it's crazy that, again, in the show, the way that she treated William was so different, because it's the same thing. It's just, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really complicated. But back to what David was saying about that moment at the end with Philip, like the way that I read it was like he was glad that he was able to do one good thing for Charles. This is how he could finally be there for Charles, was to give his son back to him. That was a very, very powerful moment. But then also I thought what was really powerful, and I think to me what made me emotional was, and I loved that the last episode was like, finally after years and years and years of like having people's relationships be denied and having the crown get in there and say, fuck you, you can't be together. Finally, for once at the end, and the one thing that he had been asking for years and years, he finally got a yes to, that he could marry the person that he loves. And when that news came down, he's just like on the phone next to him, he's just crying. That's like, he's been waiting his whole life to get. We've been waiting this whole show for a moment like this, literally. And the Queen, you can tell when the Queen, when he asks her, she's concerned, but it was just surprising how she didn't turn it down immediately. And she's like, I'll think about it, which is, and usually, which she has said many times. And when it came to Margaret and when it came to other times with Charles, it was like, well, she took counsel and they said no, so no. So finally, after having denied so many people, the people that they want to be with, at the series finale, she's finally able to do that. That was beautiful. And what I also thought was really interesting, again, a TV show, not that this actually happened in real life, but her contemplating stepping down from the throne because of how tired she was, which, by the way, just happened in real life with a different monarchy. I don't know if you saw, but
yeah, I did.
What was it? The Netherlands, or was it?
I think it was the Netherlands.
The queen stepped down, and
the longest reigning queen, longer than this queen, might I add,
stepped down, and her son is now taking over. Which, man, just you just think of an alternate reality.
She probably saw the show and was like,
"It's time."
Like different versions of herself came to her and talked to her about, like, you know, all of this and everything. That's also really well done. Also, the cameos, not cameos, but the inclusion of Olivia Colman and Claire Foy.
I bawled my eyes out. I cannot handle that.
The three queens, the crown, No Way Home.
Which one was it? The first one, that line Claire. That she said. I think it was her. It might have been her, or it might have been Philip. But I think it was her that she, like, when she's kind of contemplating, like, should I step down or not? And she says, deep down, you know that nobody can do a better job than you. You're right, queen. I love that, like, I love how what every version represented.
Yeah.
That was a good,
because it just felt incredibly realistic for this character. It's like, yeah, I mean, I love that moment when she's, it was in the trailer, but also in that episode, it's like, what about the woman I set aside when I became queen?
Cried.
And but then
when she came out from behind the casket, oh my, I lost it again.
Yeah, but I mean, I also love that final speech that she gave at the wedding, and everyone was just like on their toes, nervous. Anne and Philip were very worried about what was about to happen. And I love how Harry and William are making fun of their dad about what's the one thing he's wanted more than Camilla his entire life. Oh my god, man. Why is Charles such a punching bag? Like, and everybody is just like laying it on him. Everybody. But they're funny though.
It is. It's really funny. He's just a dork.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of great moments, also a lot of sad moments. I think the show will be remembered for a lot of things, but it always delivered on powerful Princess Margaret episodes. It was really hard to see those gatherings with her not being there. You almost kind of wish that, since this is somewhat semi-fictionalized, just ignore that she died, or just have her die later and her be included in those scenes, you know? But that was also just so sad to see.
I think that's when my dad stopped watching. He like had to step away.
Yeah, because this has always been the person that's been so full of life, and then she just gets dealt a bad hand with these freaking health issues. She gets burned in a bathtub. She's got all these seizures that happen. That moment in the hospital where, you know how this whole show they've been doing, you know, hi you, and then she says goodbye you, as she's there in the hospital bed, or even back when she's at home and she's just telling her sister, you know what, like, you're gonna lose. I mean, after Portia died, and then, like, you know, you're gonna lose mom soon, and me too. It's like, I'm not happy about it. I'm actually angry, but like, I don't got too much time left.
It's just so crazy how I would not have been able to handle if they would have done Philip dying. Like, no.
Yeah.
And like I always like think about that too. I'm like, she literally didn't even live like a whole year after him.
No.
Like, I would not. No. Like, thinking about it just makes me want to cry.
How many? Okay, so she passed away in 2022. That happened to be the year of her last jubilee. How many years did she mark? Was it 70 years? I think it was 70 years. 70? No, she was 96. But I think on the crown, she was like 70 years on the throne.
It's a long time. And this other lady's longer. God damn, no wonder. I hope she has a good retirement.
She was a former queen. I'm sure she's got a great benefits package for all of that. Like, she won't be living in the palace.
For real.
I mean, the queen
mother.
Imagine.
I know.
The queen mother. She lived a long ass time.
Oh my god! I didn't even realize she was still alive. Yeah. That episode where the sad one where she's like, "What? How?" I didn't. No clue. I literally went, "Who's that?"
She was 102.
Oh my god!
She lived to be 102. The queen mother also, who we had on the show from the very first episode.
Yeah. And she was old. She was already old.
Wait, I loved her episode when she was going to buy like a castle.
Yeah,
after she was leaving. Yeah, that was such a great episode for her. I loved it.
Honestly, she probably would have been happier if she had done that. Again, this show is just a bunch of people just refusing to make the choices that would make them the happiest because of the institution that they belong to.
Yep. I was gonna say something and I forgot. Never mind.
I really liked the actor that played Harry. A lot of people didn't like him. I don't know what happened. People don't like things for a lot of reasons, but I actually really liked him.
I did too. That again, I just feel like we did it. Like, I wanted more from him because I thought the actor was really good.
I mean, we could petition for season 7. I don't know.
I'm down. Give me everything, please.
We shouldn't. I know we didn't talk too much about her. I'm sorry, but like, because we spent. I think we reviewed the first part, right? But Elizabeth Debicki, and Emma Corrin as Diana. Jeez. Oh, one thing I will say, they tried introducing that back in this last season, but I do miss how after Thatcher, the prime ministers didn't really amount to anything on the show, because like this show had big time devoted to its prime ministers, mostly Churchill and Thatcher, but after that, we just they were kind of there.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
We did have an episode
with him
in the last
with Blair, I believe.
Was it in the last half or the first half?
The last half. Where like he I think he references President Clinton and President Bush and other things that are going on, and I think also 9/11 that happens. And the whole invasion of Iraq.
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of. I mean, I don't know. I don't live over there, so I wouldn't really know. But like, the fact that they were kind of just like there.
Yeah.
And like, it was like interesting though because, I felt like in the other seasons, I like really enjoyed the stuff with all the prime ministers.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to not have that, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
I don't know what else we missed, you know? I just feel like
it was really short. I mean, we only got like 4 episodes.
6.
6? No.
Part 2 was 6.
Oh my
Part
god.
1 was 4. It felt like 4. It didn't feel like that much, maybe. Yeah, it kind of just flew by, honestly.
It did. That's crazy.
Yeah, it honestly is. I for sure will revisit the show. I think it was able to end on its own terms in a very satisfying fashion, which is, and also in the current era that we find ourselves, for any show to make it to 6 seasons, that's an accomplishment. An absolute accomplishment right there. And if Netflix, I don't know, I feel like maybe give it a few years, but I see no reason if you can just pick up where they left off, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I was thinking too. Like, just one more season.
Or maybe, 20 years, they'll be like, hey, let's bring it back. And just, yeah, like I said, pick up where we left off. And they can really do that.
I mean, will Charles even be alive in 20 years?
Maybe after his death, they can do it, Just be like, hey, this is the rest of his life.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you guys realize we won't have another queen for like a hot minute? Because the next one is William, the one after that is his son. Then who knows what's gonna happen after that?
Oh, we'll be dead. We're not gonna live.
That's
to see another
true.
queen. No, we're not. I mean, I thought because he's younger. He's a lot younger than we are.
Yeah.
The little boy. What's his
George?
name? Yeah.
George?
Isn't he 10 or 12? Or is he?
Ugh. Oh my god, that makes me feel really old.
But it's like,
yeah,
forget it. We'll be dead.
Oh, that made me so sad.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm more sad about the fact that in 20 years we may not have Miyazaki or Scorsese anymore. So.
And then did you see who passed away recently? At 100 years old?
Yes, Gwenny. What was you? Winifred from Mary Poppins. She just turned 100 last year. Was she the last surviving cast member besides Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews? Besides. And the kids? Not one of them isn't alive anymore.
Yeah, but the other two are. Or other one.
One.
You said the last remaining, like literally the rest of
the
cast still alive.
I know. Guess I'm getting ahead of myself there. Just a little bit.
We're talking about death a lot, so we're just kind of like we're looking into it too much or something.
I mean, there's so much death. I mean, yeah. I don't know what we can do about that, but that's just the way that it is. Okay. Anything else to say?
I will miss it. Honestly, I don't even know why I have Netflix anymore.
I hope it wins some awards.
Yeah.
I think
I hope the whole cast gets back together every season.
Yeah. Well, I'll find out soon. Anyway, thank you all for being here, both of you. Thank you all for listening. Our show is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, usually on Sundays. And we'll be covering a lot of award season and new movies coming out this year. Stay tuned for our reactions to the Golden Globes and, of course, other awards like the Critics' Choice, the Screen Actors Guild, the BAFTAs, and, of course, the Oscars. One wrinkle The Emmys are happening this month because they were delayed due to the strikes. So, but the voting happened months ago. I don't know if I care, honestly, about the Emmys as much.
I
So
like the Golden Globes better.
Yeah, as most people should. I personally feel. But it is what it is. Anyway, thank you for being with us. Stay under our Red Spotlight for more content and more, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.